Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Geek News Marathon Night, where we take a much longer 90s-esque season, and we not only do episode by episode, we take them in chunks, because we're talking about like 50 episodes. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this, and joining me, of course, is my lovely wife, Andrea. Andrea, are you part of the Bladebreakers hype yet?
Yeah.
Can they go to the top?
Sure. Oh, and it is McGregor.
It is McGregor. Okay, all right, cool.
And it says on the internet. Yeah. But
I couldn't get the fandom wiki to turn on.
Okay, well, yeah.
Anyway, welcome back to Beyblade Season 1. Andrea, we are down to like the last 10 episodes of the first season of Beyblade, and I have no problem telling you this. I'm starting to get a feeling, usually with a lot of these shows, they have to close at the end of the season, because they might be hyping a brand new type of show right after that. The example that I have here is like Pokemon, even though that really didn't change, the titles did. And so at that point, you went from, what was it, Johto? What was the first one that they did that was Johto? I think it was just Pokemon Johto. No, Johto Journeys was what it was. And then they went into Johto League Champions. And then they still had a third one after that. So that didn't really change, but like Digimon had Digimon Season 1, and that had to close, and then go to Season 2, which is a continuation, but years later, kind of thing. I'm starting to get the feeling that Beyblade is just going to continue on like Pokemon does after this season. Because I just can't see how in 10 episodes they can wrap up the epitome of the first kind of arc of the Bladebreakers. Even though I know later series, like, they do actually continue on, and it's like months or years later. But that being said, we're 10 episodes left, Andrea. Are you getting a little sad?
Yeah.
Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
And now it's going to end. And then you'll have to go to something else. And you'll have to find a way to deal with it. I'm kidding, of course. So, let's go ahead and start things up with episode 37, A Night to Remember. But it's night with a K. Get it? Get it? Yeah, TV companies used to do this all the time. So, we've had our matches with Oliver. We've had our matches with Enrique. Well, now they're buddies with the Bladebreakers, and they decide to fly them all the way back to the UK to challenge Robert again. Because according to Oliver and Enrique, Robert is the shit. Like, he's the nicest guy ever, right? They talk nothing but positives about Robert. Robert can do no wrong, even though we saw him on a cruise ship annihilate like 30 to 40 Beyblades. He's a stand-up guy, right?
Sure.
So we go to Robert's castle, and we have Enrique and Oliver. So that pretty much guarantees that like they're gonna hear him. Hopefully, is what we're hoping. But they basically meet up with, I think his name is Rolf, the butler for Robert's family, and they basically have to play the waiting game because apparently Robert is busy with pressing business, I think is what the term that Rolf used. He has pressing business with another guest, and so at that point they wait. Obviously Tyson cannot take it. Because I guess the reason that they've come here is they're going to challenge Robert again, or Tyson's going to challenge Robert again, and see what happens. Well, Tyson doesn't want to wait anymore, so he decides to go look for Robert, because he thinks Robert's chicken. This, in turn, makes him go through Robert's castle and find out that, much like other old castles, there are traps, and there are trapdoors, and there are trap gauntlets to try and kill any invaders that would come in. And so we get to have a nice little montage of Tyson basically running away from all the traps in Robert's castle, which is kind of fun. It's kind of fun. But eventually, the rest of the Bladebreakers, as well as Enrique and Oliver, get tired of waiting. Mm-hmm. And so they go look for him, and it turns out that Robert is actually has another visiting guest who is the other European champion that took out one of the Dark Bladers. And that is, as Andrea pointed out the last name, Johnny McGregor, which is just weird to me because, okay, Oliver's from France, Enrique's from Italy, Robert is from the UK, and Johnny's from the UK. Because whether or not Scotland likes that I say this, Scotland is a part of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were going to 4 separate countries.
Pretty much.
But we're not.
Mm.
Instead, they have 2 UK champions. Both with, might I add, the exact same motif to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is about when Tyson ends up falling from the chimney, or not the chimney, but falling into the fireplace from the traps that he was running from, and then confronts Robert. And Robert then gets to hear the story of why Oliver and Enrique brought him, and he seems very polite, but he's still refusing to battle against Tyson. And then we get his reasoning because he takes them to the family armory in the castle and basically states that, you know, this bit beast isn't, much like Tyson, this bit beast has been in our family for generations, and it has always represented us, and we've gone to war with Gritholian, and we're, you know, like, I'm going to follow the knight characteristics of once you're defeated, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say knightly characteristics, a lot of people go, oh, well, he's going to follow the code of chivalry and honor, right? Which would dictate that he would give Tyson that rematch. But one of the things I find funny is throughout all of that history explaining all of Robert's ancestors, well, their suits of armor all have very specific motifs. They're all black knights. And by black knights, I mean, when you think of a black knight in there, and for all the people who want to call me racist, shut up. It's a black set of armor, and the guy who is in it is usually doing nefarious deeds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And all of the memories that we're being shown are in the midst of conflict. And I don't know if you guys have heard the old adages, but there is no honor on a battlefield. Okay? And so I find it funny that all of his family are in black knight attire, black armor, spikes, everything. And he's telling us that he's a knightly person. And yet, again, I go back to the cruise ship, you annihilated 30 kids' toys. And you're the knightly character? No, you're the black knight. You're the guy that everybody wants to beat, kind of thing. So I find that incredibly hilarious. He's like, oh, I'm totally a noble person. No, you're not. And then Johnny is joining them, but Johnny's just criticizing everybody there. Like, why is this even worth our time, etc. And finally, it gets to a point where I believe Kai wanted to walk away because he was getting sick of all of this. And Johnny basically said, go ahead, walk away, coward. You probably had nothing to bring. And that, I didn't think this would work, but we had the Marty McFly reaction from Kai.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's like, are you calling me chicken? And he takes him up on it. He hasn't done that this entire time. I'm just saying, guys, prolonged exposure to the Bladebreakers apparently gives you Marty McFly syndrome. You can no longer be called chicken ever again. And so at that point, we get a match between Johnny McGregor and Kai. And like I said, Johnny has a very similar motif to Robert, because his family also is a group of knights. Their bit beast, much like Tyson and Robert, has been in the family for generations and has been used in the field of combat, because a lot of people don't know this, but in the Middle Ages, Britain was fighting quite a lot. Think the warring states of Japan. Very similar. And so at that point, he comes out, much like how Enrique did, in his family's suit of armor, which, by the way, Piedmon has been calling Johnny for years, saying he's been stealing his shtick, because that's what that looked like. If you wanted Piedmon's outfit from Digimon Season 1 in a suit of armor, that's what this armor looks like, right? It's very court jester.
Okay.
in how it looks. It's very poofy in specific areas, specifically his hips, his shoulders. I think his gloves were a little poofy too.
They didn't look that puffy.
They were. Stop kidding yourself. It was hilarious. And so he decides to take on Kai, but he has to do so in his family's suit of armor. And much like with Enrique, where the sword and shield were the launcher, he has a pike. This has been in the family, apparently, for generations. And this is how he launches his Beyblade, because there's like a little gear on the end of it, where when he thrusts his pike down to the ground, that basically has like a hook effect, and that's what sends out his Beyblade. So Kai and him decide to go off, and this is when we get to meet Salamulion. So that's his family's bit beast, a salamander. And for all the people going, well, that's pretty that's pretty lame. Well, yeah, but salamanders actually have had mythical importance, specifically with fire. And that's the same case here. So it is cool that we're having two fire-based bit beasts going at each other. And the only thing that's a little worrisome about this, I don't know if you noticed this, Andrea, but Kai left his gloves on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that's the Dragon Ball equivalent of we know he's not trying. All right? But when he took his gloves off against Tyson, that's how you know he's trying.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do that here. Instead, he basically tried to coast his way through this, and Johnny ended up being a lot tougher than I think he thought he was going to be. And so we actually do kind of have a stalemate through most of this fight, which is kind of compelling, honestly. I like the fact that they're also, where this base stadium is that it is Robert's personal training grounds. But I don't know if you noticed this, Andrea. It's literally built like an oven.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only one way for exhaust to go out, and it is built in a way so that, you know, if you're there for a long time, it's going to be hot, really hot. And so you have two fire-based bit beasts going at it in basically an oven. I feel bad for every single person in there, because you know it had to have hit like 150 degrees in that battle, at least at one point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty. But eventually we have to stop the stalemate, and the bit beasts come out. So we have Dronzer and we have Salamulion. This is where things unfortunately turn for Kai, because Salamulion, this is kind of weird, maybe I'm the only one thinking this, he launches his attack, which is basically launching what looked like poison flames. The bit beast itself, you know, like we're early bit beast here, so everything is outlined in a aura. So like when you see Drasil, he's all purple, right? Salamulion comes out all yellow, but then his flame attack is purple, which would, you know, visually make you think, okay, his flames are poisonous. Don't know, because they call it just a straight up fire attack.
Yeah.
Well, this hits, and it actually does knock Dronzer out. Kai has lost. Not for the first time, mind you. Maybe the first time on this tour. Because remember, he did technically lose to Tyson. So at that point, Kai has lost again. And Kai took this really well, didn't he, Andrea? He took this really well.
Yeah.
By that, I mean he did not. He cared immensely. And so immediately, like and I love the fact that he's doing the anime rival shtick, or the anime rival trope of being quietly growling because he's lost. You know, Vegeta's done this in the past, guys. Matt has done it to Ty. Pretty sure Gary did it at one point to Ash, etc. And so that's how the episode basically ends, with Salamulion beating Dronzer, and Kai not really taking it all that well. And what makes it even worse is that Johnny is a bit of a sore winner. Basically saying that Kai was never at his level, even though they were at a stalemate for a good portion of this match. He's not at his level, and this was all a colossal waste of time. So, final thoughts on A Night to Remember, Andrea. What was good about it? Again, I like the arena, because that was perfect for two fire-based bit beasts. to fight in a literal oven. That had to test both the player, or both the Beyblader as well as the Bit Beast. I like that concept. What was a positive for you?
Just how funny it was that they're trying to get the challenge and they're like trying to find every way not to. And
oh yeah, no, like Robert does not want to do it, and his premise is that once he beats you, he can sit. He puts it differently because kids show, but basically his premise is once you're beaten, it's like on a battlefield. You're dead. I don't have to fight you again. You're on the ground. And that's not the case here. And I love the concept that, no, this is very knightly and noble of me to do that. Dude, you have nothing but black sets of armor in your family line. You were anything but. If anything, I should be hauling out every Monty Python joke I can about you right now. Anything else you want to put out? No, the positives are pretty much there. Negatives. What did this episode do wrong? Portraying Robert the way they did, because he's not noble. We already know that. Just, I'm sorry, have him twirl his damn mustache. Why should I have to fight you? I trounced you last time, even though it was closer than that. At least it was portrayed as closer than that, right? He didn't get, because basically what they did was, it was kind of like with Johnny. It was stalemate until the Bit Beast came out. And then Griffolian kind of ripped ripped Dragoon a new one, right?
Yeah.
But I'm remembering the early part that they were neck and neck until that point, right? So, yeah, I don't like how Robert is portrayed here. All you had to do was basically portray him as the villain. I don't know how this was a problem. You had no problem portraying Oliver as a villain because of his ego. You had no problem portraying Enrique as a villain. No, only the person that came off as the jackass was Johnny. And Robert should have been that way too. The only reason I can think of that they didn't was because Enrique and Oliver were saying, oh, Robert's such a good guy. He's really not. Negatives for you. Tyson should have lost weight in that gauntlet of castle traps. And for all the people that want to say that's unrealistic, no, a lot of castles did that, actually. The only thing that probably doesn't happen is that you don't have Rolf go in there and clean it, you know? Shit like that happened. It's just probably not as elaborate as it was in Robert's castle.
I'm just surprised Tyson just goes out and tries to go look for him.
Like I said with my original argument, I'm surprised there wasn't a whole lot more bones. But like, I know some people are going to go, well, Tyson was annoying while he was being impatient. Because Tyson didn't want to be there. I'm totally on board with that. I wouldn't want to be there either. I have a feeling that Oliver and Enrique had to drag him to get him to go to there and promise him the rematch. So, out of 5, what would we give A Night to Remember? I'm going to go lower than a lot of people think. Andrea, what about you?
3, I guess.
I'm going to go 2. Because I really just think that it would have been a lot better if just Robert owned that he was a jackass. Because most of these episodes paint him as a pompous jackass. And he is! And it's totally fine. But no, he has a noble family lineage. Bullshit. So that being said, yeah, I'm going to give it a 2, maybe a 2.5. Just because eventually, once we get to the match, I do actually like the fact that Kai lost. It shows a chink in the armor. It shows that even he can be beaten. You know, like, this entire time, no one's beaten Kai. In fact, most of the matches that he's been in, he's trounced. Cool. You gave him something to work towards.
And he doesn't think he's too overpowered and thinks he doesn't need
Right. Now, granted, you need to take off your gloves next time, dude. Maybe take off your shirt. Nah, never mind. I don't want to see a 12-year-old with pecs. All right, no. Then we go into episode 38, OLYMPIA Challenge. This episode literally starts with, I always want to say Rolf, but I think that's the butler. No, Robert is actually on a business trip because Robert is going with a person who is building a personal Beyblade stadium for him, and he goes to basically check his work. And again, we get a sign of pomposity from Robert because he's pissed that the guy was 3 days late on this order. And basically what it is that it's this personal Beyblade stadium that has kind of a Greek motif. So it's like this Greek Colosseum for gladiators to do Beyblading in. And on top of that, they have a bunch of amenities for families and whatnot. I love that part, by the way, is that they basically had Disneyland amenities. They had like kiddie pools for people to watch Beyblading. The kids are going to be watching the Beyblades. It's the parents that you needed to accommodate for. But he goes and he does all that. He comes back, and I think Enrique, Johnny, and Oliver were not with him. They were off doing their own thing. And they meet up with Robert, who basically says, oh, yeah, that's cool. We've got this new Beyblade stadium and whatnot. They then get a distressed Rolf, who is, again, the butler, saying that they have a very serious situation happening. The situation is in the dining room. Robert basically said, okay, well, we beat you guys. You guys can stay the night, but then you're gone. Kind of thing. The Bladebreakers basically decided that they are not leaving until all 4 of these European champions challenge them. And their way of protest is to constantly make Robert's staff make breakfast for them. I've got to give major points here, man. They basically went for the IHOP protest treatment. I didn't think this existed, Andrea, but now we need to do this. You're on board with this, right?
Sure.
Let's do it. Obviously, Rolf is mad because, they're creating big grocery bills. And Rolf is mad about this. Robert then gets mad because they are abusing his hospitality. But you're a knight. You should be hospitable to any guest. And ultimately, Oliver and Enrique, they think it's actually a great idea. So they start trying to pitch this to Robert, while Johnny is 100% against it. He's like, why are we wasting our time with these people, etc. So Robert basically says, for the 4 of them, finish up whatever current breakfast you're working on, and then go out to the tennis court. And we will discuss this, and we will give you our formal answer in a bit. So they go out and play tennis, and Oliver and Enrique make their case to Robert. Johnny obviously very much against it, but Robert finds a way to make this better for everybody involved. Okay, we'll face off against you one-on-one, or like as a team, but if we beat you, we take your spot in Russia. Keep in mind, boys and girls, the whole premise of these characters is that they are already world champions and that they have refused to go to Russia. So my question is, why the fuck do you want to go to Russia?
Why change your mind about competing?
Yes, exactly. Why did you change your mind? Why is this a good thing, Robert? You have admitted this. Oliver's admitted this. Enrique's admitted this. You said no. And yet the thing you don't want to do is the stake that you want to give them? It doesn't make sense unless you take into account Robert's lineage. He's the fucking Black Knight. He wants to take something from them. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
He's the villain. He's twirling his mustache. Seriously, this kid needed to have a mustache. So they come out and they make that offer. But, well, Andrea, your thought on the offer. Sorry, I cut you off.
We might as well have just taken the bit beast.
You know what? The Dark Bladers probably had a better idea there. Yeah, it makes sense too. I don't know how you would have taken the bit beast. I still have that question from the Dark Bladers, but
still.
Yeah. They give this. They make their offer, to which the Bladebreakers accept, and they will duel in the brand new Olympia stadium that Robert has created. So he gets to try out his new stadium, and he gets to do so in good fashion. So they say, okay, take this day, prep for it, and then the next day we're going to face off in that stadium. So they all make their strategies and whatnot. And in fact, it's early on decided, I believe, because I don't think Max fought in any of them, right? They hold Max back. And primarily one of the reasons is because it's very obvious Kai wants a frickin' rematch against Johnny.
I think Max
he's still doing the Vegeta clenching his Beyblade, grinding his teeth.
Well, I think Max volunteered to set this one out.
That's right. He went up to Kai and offered up his position. That's right.
He knew probably Kai wanted.
Because Kai was being Kai and being quiet. So, yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. Is Max offered up his spot. So the three here are going to be Tyson, Kai, and Ray up against theirs. So we get to the day, and Robert has pulled out all the stops. First of all, I love the fact that everybody that is coming to the stadium as a spectator is dressed better than the Bladebreakers. Like, everybody's coming. I'm not wrong, right? They're going in, like, traditional gowns and tuxes. Even the kids are well-dressed. And there's the Bladebreakers in their usual outfits. At that point, you might as well have taken off the shirt, Kai. That probably would have made a difference. No, I don't want to see a 12-year-old with pecs. Especially pecs like John Cena's. It just doesn't make sense. So, that is when we also find out that Robert has spared no expense. And he got the exact same TV announcers, as well as DJ Jazzman. For those who don't know who that is, he's the guy that's usually saying the 3, 2, 1, let it rip. Believe it or not, he actually has a name, much like the Dragon Ball announcer does. So he has hired all these guys, and he has told them the stakes, that if they lose, they give up their spot at Russia to their team, the Majestics, which, by the way, they didn't name. DJ Jazzman did. So what do we think of the name The Majestics? Because I'm on Johnny's side. It's really corny.
I just love it. They're like, why did we get called this?
Well, Robert's just like, that's fine, whatever, because I'll trash you anyway. But then Enrique and Oliver are like, yeah, we kind of like that. And Johnny is just against this. He hates it. I like it because when you consider their histories, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because we haven't gone through this yet, but Johnny is also a world champion in his own right. He is considered the gladiator of Glasgow, is how he said it. Mm-hmm. So he has the same kind of heritage as everybody else does. The only thing we don't know is if he's like we know that Robert's a ruthless businessman, so that works. So we don't know what Johnny does aside from Beyblading. He actually looks like a loafer in some extent. So they decide to draw cards to see who will be representing them. By the way, I should also point out all of them are coming out in suits of armor now. Keep in mind, and I had to double check this with Andrea, Oliver did not wear a suit of armor when Tyson faced him. But now he is actually wearing a suit of armor that is very indicative of French armor. I like that. Enrique comes out in his gladiator affair that we're aware of. And we've already seen Johnny, and now Robert comes out in his Black Knight armor. Again, black armor. He's a Black Knight. And so they determined that, I believe it was Enrique that was not picked. So Oliver, Johnny, and Robert will be facing off against the Bladebreakers. And to that point, we then go into the first... Well, actually, do we start the match in this episode? I don't think we do. I think we just kind of set up the first match being in the first episode, or for the next episode. Yes. So they do set up the first match, which is going to be... Oh, actually, no, they actually do face. So Oliver faces off against Ray. Now keep in mind, we've only seen Tyson face off against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And this match was actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
Ray does not let up. He applies nothing but pressure to Unicoleon. And we eventually do get Unicoleon in the match as well as Drigger, and it ties.
Mm-hmm.
Because they literally are at a stalemate. They're not at a stalemate. I want to say Ray owned this match for a majority of it. It's just that they ended up landing outside of the arena at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it is considered a tie. And so what they do is they basically give the point to both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a really good match that Ray and Oliver put on, enough so that Oliver just kind of continues to gain respect for them while Johnny continues to get pissy because he's not seeing it. You know, like he just sees wins and losses as wins and losses. But Oliver actually sees like the amount of growth that Ray's had, even though he's never faced Ray before. Maybe he knew his uncle, and that's why he knew that there was growth. But yeah, that's the episode. So Andrea, what are the positives of Olympia Challenge? I'm gonna point out that Ray and Oliver match. That was really good.
That was a good match.
Any others?
I just love it that the way they just try to find a way to get them to.
I'm gonna give credit over to Rob. They're finally kind of making him twirl his mustache a little bit. He's not noble or knightly here. He's ruthless. It's like the first time that they've done that since the previous episode.
Yeah.
So, I'll give that credit. Any others? Negatives. What did this episode do wrong? The stakes. The stakes are still pretty dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you know, you've gone out of your way to point out these guys are world champions. They refused to go. They didn't want to go to the Russian tournament. So, but now they care because now they can take it away from Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
It's still pretty weak, but it's got a justification that I can, like a story justification that I can justify.
Yeah.
Any other negatives for you?
No.
Not really? Okay. So out of 5, what would you give Olympia Challenge? I'd give this a 4.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty step up, as far as I'm concerned. Would you give a different one? Okay, so 4 across the board. Then we get into episode 39, a majestic battle, a majestic victory. So we have a tie, which means that both teams get a point, and it will literally matter on how the next 2 matches go on who wins the tournament. So they say that they're doing best 2 out of 3, but I have a feeling that if it actually got even again, they probably would have resorted to Max versus Enrique. I don't know. It's kind of weird on this. Like, if just from your perspective, Andrea, they tie. Would you give them both a point? Yeah, that's pretty much what they did.
I mean, I guess that's fine, I suppose.
I almost would have done what they did in the Asia tournament and had them face off again. But but obviously in the next episode. I would not have done that in the same episode. I would have let them have a break, let them talk to people, and then come back out. I wouldn't have just given them a point, but that's me. So you would have given them the point.
Either that or they just don't get a point.
I'm okay with that too, because then at that point you have to rely on the 4. But they didn't do that. So we're already kind of not there. But match 2 is underway, and this one is the rematch. So, Kai versus Johnny. Kai gets his rematch against Johnny and Salamulian. And this one is pretty damn good. It's, again, very stalemate match. I like the fact that Johnny is still saying, like, I won and I will continue to win and you must submit to me because I already won against you. And Kai is just kind of sitting back and being vengeful. However, things start going in Johnny's favor, which requires Kai to do something he has not done this entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Rely on help from others.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, the level of swallowing pride here, man. Except he didn't. So Tyson tries to give him advice. He blows him off. But then thinks, oh yeah, that is kind of a good idea. So I'm pretty sure when he went back to Tyson, he was like, I didn't take your stupid idea. I just did what I wanted to do. But you just took my idea. No, I did what I wanted to do. Because that's Kai's character. I love it. But basically what happens is he utilizes the exact same strategy that Tyson did with
Enrique's
Amphileon. So he actually uses the same strategy that was used against Amphileon, which is basically to play to the arrogance, play to the aggression, and gets Salamulion out of the arena, to which then Dronzer lands the finishing blow and knocks out Salamulion and Johnny. Which, by the way, all this time, I forgot to mention this in the previous episode, but it's more prevalent here. Kenny has been kidnapped, kind of, by the Dark Bladers, because they want to see these people lose. Because they hold more grudges against the Majestics than they do against the Bladebreakers, and they are willing to let the Bladebreakers get that victory for them. We know this because Tyson kind of goes to explore the arena and gets confronted by Sanguinex. To which, at that point, as soon as they go out, that's when we notice that the Dark Bladers are all sitting next to Kenny. And the even better part about this is that Dizzy continues to beg for her life along with Kenny's during all of these discussions. But, so we have all of that going on, and they, what was it, Lupinax? It was the werewolf one.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to see Johnny go down, because Johnny's the one that beat him. And so we get to have that nice little moment, and it's now what looks to be 1-0 against the Majestics, and this is when we prep up for the next match, because we've also had to deal with a lot of this Dark Blader nonsense, where they set up Robert versus Tyson. Yeah, funniest thing about that. So already we have that going on, and what did you think of Kai's match against Johnny? I thought it was
good, especially when he was trying to figure out how to win. And
I especially love the fact that he used Tyson's advice without using Tyson's advice. Because you can do that, boys and girls. It's not a double standard. It's not a hypocrisy. Kind of. But it is definitely a writing tool to basically say, this person is so arrogant they would not resort to another person's tactics. And then they resort to another person's tactics. So I loved it. I thought it was a great thing for Kai to do. And he did get his win, ultimately, against Johnny. Which, Johnny, in case people don't realize this, Johnny's been a real dick this whole time. Everybody wants to see him go down. Including his own teammates, who are all also assuming he is not doing the exact same thing. And this is also when we start to hear Enrique and Oliver consistently mentioning that one of the biggest flaws of this whole tournament against them is that the Bladebreakers are a team. The Majestics are not. And Johnny is one of the biggest proponents of, we don't need to be a team. We already have individual accolades that make us amazing. So having Johnny lose, perfect, as far as I'm concerned.
It was nice to see him lose.
So I think overall we could say the match is a positive. Any other positives? I like the fact that Oliver and Enrique are the ones pointing out, oh yeah, by the way, this is how they beat us, and we're still not doing this. Because I think that goes against their argument that they've had in the previous episodes, where like, the reason we're so amazing is we have absolute control over our bit beasts, which, by the way, not mentioned in this entire tournament.
They kind of forgot.
They forgot about that, and good riddance to bad rubbish. That was stupid. So I will say that that's also a positive. Anything else that we could say is a positive? I'll throw in the Dark Bladers. I think that the fact that they are there is an interesting thing, but that also goes into my negative, which is the Dark Bladers, because the way that they're holding Kenny hostage when there's so many other people around them that could stop this nonsense. Yeah, kind of stupid.
Besides, why would they need to hold Kenny hostage when they're already going up against
to ensure that they win? That's their motivation. They think that they're motivating the Bladebreakers to win against their opponents. So it's not working. But again, it just takes the Dark Bladers and knocks them down a peg in terms of villains. So any other negatives? Johnny being a jackass
Yeah.
throughout most of this. It really got annoying whenever Johnny opened his damn mouth. Robert kind of is there as well, but at least we get where Robert's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny's just being a bitch because he's being a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of 5, what would we give a majestic battle, a majestic victory? This one I'm not going to go as high. I'll say that. What's your score?
4, probably.
Okay, so 4 probably because of the match, primarily.
Oh, yeah.
See, for me, I'm going to go with a 3, and it's primarily because, like, writing-wise, I knew that they had to have Kai win, although I love how they made Kai win. But
that was kind of the fun of it.
But the thing that detracted the most from it was when the Dark Bladers they'd have to cut to the Dark Bladers going, "Oh, he's losing. Good. Yay." And then Dizzy would have to go and like try to beg for Kenny, and I don't even know why Dizzy was begging for Kenny. It's not like they were going to kill him. Like, this is a kid's show still. At the very worst, Kenny would get wedgies, all right? So yeah, that knocked it down a peg for me because I really wanted the focus to be on the match and to be on Kai and his personal 1-episode redemption arc that's happening here. So I'll give it a 3. Then we go into episode 40. Oh, actually, no, that's right. We're not done with 39 because the Tyson match did happen here.
Yeah.
So, okay, retract the scores for a second because we have Robert versus Tyson. And this was the biggest letdown of the whole damn tournament. So we have, once again, a really good stalemate between the two of them. Then we start building up Griffolian and Dragoon coming out. And that was pretty freaking cool. They stalemate with the Bit Beasts. And it looks like Dragoon is going to go in for the kill. This is literally how it goes. We get a weird explosion out of nowhere that apparently hurt both of them. Tyson is carrying out Robert, and now Robert abandons everything he said up until this point for all of these episodes and thinks Tyson's a good guy. I'm this knightly person that believes that everything is a battlefield and everything like that, except when you saved my life, you son of a bitch. I love you, man!
Oh my goodness.
The fuck? And yeah, so Tyson, or the Bladebreakers win against the Majestics, and the biggest, as I said to Andrea, and I'll say it here, the biggest non-fucking finish of the whole tournament. Kai's match was more enjoyable than this because we wanted that final moment where Dragoon pulls off the Phantom Hurricane against Griffolian. We don't even get it. And yet, mysteriously, Robert has learned the heart of the cards. The true purpose of Pokemon. He learns it out of nowhere, and there you go. Just thoughts on that, Andrea. I have to drink something before my head explodes.
I just find it really hilarious, especially when Tyson goes to.
Would you consider this match to be a positive or a negative for the episode?
It was too hard to see. I guess a negative, probably.
You cannot talk negatively about anything. It's okay. It was bad. It was bad. It had such a build up to it and a very dismal payoff. It was bad. I would call this a definite negative of the episode and of the whole damn tournament arc, but with all 4 of these people. Because of this, also, by the way, the Dark Bladers find the heart of the cards as well. Because of this, I have no respect for the Majestics whatsoever. They built them up as this real threat to the Bladebreakers, and it turns out that they were nothing of the sort. Absolutely nothing of the sort. So,
I find it funny that Tyson tried to go dive to go save Dragoon, and
yeah, and ultimately this is what leads to the explosion that then he saves Robert from.
Mm-hmm.
So let's rescore this, shall we? Episode 39 out of 5 with the new information about Robert versus Tyson.
Probably 3.5.
Immediately goes down to a 1.5.
Okay.
because of the non-finish. As a kid, I would have been pissed off at this. I probably would have stopped watching at that given if I was a kid.
Well, good thing it was not an official match.
It was an official match.
Well, I know it was an official match for them, but it wasn't like going to championships or whatever.
It was as official as it gets because it was for their Russian tournament spot.
That's true, but
1.5 non-finish, and it took away everything. It basically made the last, I want to say 5 to 10 episodes kind of worthless. Ultimately, because of basically painting the Majestic as being just, or specifically Robert as, the guy who trounced Tyson so hard, and then, he just magically finds the heart of the cards out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 1.5. The match itself was great, but the non-finish hurts all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, episode 40, Hot Battle in a Cold Town. So now we are officially in Russia. And are trying to look for what were they? They were looking for their lodgings, basically, and they were using the map from Mr. Dickinson. Which, by the way, Mr. Dickinson was at that tournament.
Oh yeah.
In fact, he rigged the whole damn tournament because he's the guy who gave the wrong information about when the ship would leave.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't anybody it wasn't the Dark Bladers or. That's why I'm saying this whole thing is just its explanation is so stupid.
Well, we saw that coming, right?
No.
You didn't remember that?
No, I didn't remember that at all. I thought we were going to get this whole arc with the Dark Bladers because I didn't remember them.
Oh,
so
well, you didn't know that guy was probably Mr. Dickinson in disguise?
No, I didn't remember that at all.
I'm surprised you didn't catch that.
No, I thought that was stupid. I thought that reveal was stupid.
Oh, I knew he was
cool. It's still stupid. Episode 40. So they're trying to look for their lodging, and they're reading the map that Mr. Dickinson has given them to try and find their hotel. And they actually come across a man named I can't remember his last name, but Boris. Typical Russian name, Boris. Boris just so happens to be the guy who's running the Beyblade Association Training Center in Russia. And so he offers to take them over to the training facility so they can see the Beybladers that maybe they'll be going up against, and also invites them to lunch since this is their first time in Russia. And so we don't get to see the lunch, which is probably for everybody's benefit. Then they go over to the training center and they get to see the next generation of Russian Beybladers who are all out training on an icy cold day and doing exercises and whatnot. And all of the exercises, by the way, are Beyblade associated. So they are all doing exercises on pulling their launchers. And they're doing exercises on... no, I think the only thing we saw was the pulling the launcher exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got that. And Boris then asks if it would be okay if one of their trainees tests their blading skills against the Bladebreakers. Very similar to how this happened with the U.S. tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Tyson offers to face off against Alexander, who it just so happens to be, at least the way that they paint this out to be, he is Boris's son. And so Alexander is not sure if he should face off against him, but he's going to. And they bring out their Beyblades, and this is the dumbest thing ever. Alexander has a Beyblade that looks like basically a ginormous Morningstar mace. And it turns out that it's basically a ripcord that, much like a Russian doll, just opens up until the actual Beyblade comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the match, and it's actually... I don't want to say... I think it was pretty much neck and neck for a little while there, and then eventually things start going a little bit in Alexander's favor, which means Tyson now has to try, and that's when we get the Phantom Hurricane attack, the one that we should have gotten in the previous episode, against Alexander, and Alexander loses.
Mm-hmm.
So, good thing for Tyson, right? Except... we now get to see the true nature of this Beyblade Training Academy, because they basically make it like they make it sound like Alexander is going to be kicked out of the school or killed.
Hmm.
No, I'm not kidding. They really do make it sound like because it almost sounds like Boris disowns him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if he actually is his son, because maybe everybody at that training center is Boris's son. I don't know.
Who knows?
But they basically make it look like Alexander is going to get crushed under Boris's foot, or he's going to get kicked out of this academy, to which Tyson's not on board with that because he thinks, Beyblade should be fun for everybody. And Kai, with a very serious look on his face, basically tries to state to Tyson, that's not how they do things here. This is not our world. Let's get out of here. Let's go to the hotel. To which Tyson leaves very upset, very frustrated, and very ready to face off against the next team that they're going to be facing, which is a team that came from this training academy.
Mm-hmm.
And we end the episode with Kai basically looking back at the school, and we also kind of get the impression that Kai knows more that he's letting on, because he kind of looks longingly at this school. And on top of that, we also know with the map that Kai apparently knows how to read Russian, because Kenny didn't. And so they kind of are hinting that maybe this is going to be the Kai story arc.
Which we finally get one.
And we're happy about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Tyson's story arc has basically been from episode 1. And we did have one for Ray with the White Tigers. We had one with Max for the US team. And now it looks like we're going to get Kai. So we finally get to learn a little bit more about Kai and his backstory. And that's basically what we're getting teased at for this Russian tournament. And I love that idea, especially given what we just had with Johnny and the fact that, Kai just doesn't take losing well at all. And maybe it's because he's from this school and they literally taught him at this school, if you lose, you die.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I kind of like that. But that's the episode. So, hot battle in a cold town. What was positive about it?
It was just really funny that Kai or Tyson goes out and realizes and it's like,
oh, jeez. Yeah, they had to do that. The gag. This is the gag where they basically get off the train. He's not wearing a coat at all. And he goes out, and immediately everybody's bundled up, and then the cold wave hits him. It was a dumb gag, but it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with that. My positive is the potential Kai backstory that we're gonna get from this.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting to me, considering the last thing we saw, granted it was in darkness, was he was dining with his father, and so we thought that maybe this just kind of ran in the family, this oppressive kind of mentality. But now I'm kind of wondering, what if it was Boris that was the dad in that scene, and we just didn't know? That's kind of an interesting way to look at it.
I mean, that could be possible.
It could be, but I like the idea that we're teasing backstory for Kai, because Kai is the one character that's been very much shadowed in mystery for a while now, and we kind of get to peel back that onion. Any other positives? The way that the Russian teams are portrayed.
Yeah.
Because even though it is stereotypical, if you're from Russia, everything is hard and cold like the weather, I like it. Mm-hmm. Because this is basically, in a way, how Robert should have been the whole damn time. He was hardened because of the way that, that he'd lived his life or whatever. That's what's coming here, and I like that. Negatives for this episode. Alexander's launcher.
That was a weird
It's
one.
dumb, but I get it. Russian doll. It's still stupid. We've seen stupid launchers before now. This is just another stupid launcher. I'm not ranking them or anything like that. It's just a stupid idea. Any negatives for you? Would we consider Tyson's temper or his tantrum afterwards to be a negative for this? I'm not in that camp, but would you?
No, not really.
Yeah, because it goes towards Kai, ultimately. Because Kai is the one who basically says, back off, let's focus on the tournament. And it just lends to that mystery of, why would Kai step in? Normally, Kai doesn't give a crap about Tyson. So I kind of like that.
That's true.
Out of 5, what would we give Hot Battle in a Cold Town? 4. 4 primarily because of the foreshadowing.
Yeah.
That happened
I
there.
would too.
The rest of it was very much build the new tournament kind of deal, but the fact that because in my opinion, Rey's foreshadowing wasn't great because it still took a little while to find out why Lee and the other members of the White Tigers considered him a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't have as big a payoff as it had a kids show level payoff. So I'm okay with that, but it's not as great. Max's was wasted as far as I'm concerned, and primarily just because of the way the US team was portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
This is perfect. This is what you need to do because the character that has been very elitist is now basically telling everybody to stay calm, to stay stoic, and teasing the fact that he knows more than he's letting on. I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
And considering that one of my favorite characters of this series so far has been Kai, yeah, I'm totally on board with it. So 4 out of 5 for me. Same for you or less?
No, 4 is fine.
Okay. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us. So the next episode that we will be back for is episodes 41 through 44. We are almost there, Andrea. Last 10 episodes at this point, and then we will be done with season 1 of Beyblade. Hopefully you're not too disappointed. Hopefully you're excited for the end.
Yep.
So at that point, thank you guys so much for joining us on this. If you're joining us on YouTube, let us know what you thought of these episodes. Let us know what you think of how the Majestics arc ended up. Also, consider leaving a like and consider subscribing to the channel because it definitely helps us out here with algorithms and such. Or if you're just listening to the podcast, you can join us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Player.fm, as well as Spotify. We enjoy the support from all of those platforms and appreciate it. And we will catch you guys next time for episodes 41 through 44 of Beyblade Season 1. Until then, Andrea, it's your turn. It's time to let it rip.
Let it rip.
DJ Jazzman would be so disappointed in you. Let it go, DJ Jazzman.